Hi, Roy here, and not at home. We're in a holiday cottage that we've rented in the Scottish borders, so it's literally the house on the borderland, which makes a good place to be thinking about occult detectives. So here's where I finished up the final week of Occult Detective October. Great event devised by MJ at Reading This Life. Still time to watch all the videos and see how a whole bunch of people explored this strange hybrid genre that stretches back into the 1900s, has all sorts of current stuff and all sorts of different expressions. And for those of us who did the prompts, the final week was an anything goes week, anything goes. So I chose to read things where on the borderland, see what I did there, where I wouldn't know, is this going to be, can we describe this as an occult detective book? Let's see. So I read The Otherwise, a film that was never made. So this was a film script. This was just before we came away, so I can't wave it at you. A film script by Mark E. Smith of The Fall and Graham Duff. And so The Fall, very influential music group. Mark E. Smith was their main man and writer. And the trail that led me here was thinking that the early Fall song, Spectre versus Rector, is perhaps the only real example of an occult detective song. And it's in the playlist that should be in my description box. So this movie, the idea was that it was set in Lancashire, area around Pendle Hill. There's a great Fall song called Lucifer Over Lancashire, which you might want to search out. It's not that far from where we live, and I can see how once you get off the beaten track. So this is a farmhouse that's been converted into a recording studio is the main setting. It is one of those quite uncanny places. There were the Pendle Witches. This isn't really about them, although there is a possible witch character in it. It's there are satanic bikers and ghosts of Jacobite soldiers, while the Fall are recording an EP in this recording studio, and all sorts of weird stuff happens. The idea was that it is the Fall, it would be Mark E. Smith playing himself. It's a great, weird, eerie read. There's also stuff in the book, lots of stuff relating to the Fall, and another idea that Graham worked on with Mark E. Smith was an anthology TV series of one of those sort of episode of the week, like supernatural shows, and there's précis of the pitches for all of those as well. So lots of cool stuff. Is it occult detective? How occult detective-y is it? I'd say it's up there because the Mark E. Smith character can see the ghosts and converse with them, knows who they are, isn't fazed by the fact that there's ghosts roaming around. So there's sort of that aspect, and it is a mystery that kind of gets solved. I quite like the idea of Mark E. Smith being a sort of successor to John Silence and Thomas Carnacki. And if you look at his body of work, there's another interesting part of the book is a sort of assessment of the occult aspects of a whole bunch of Fall songs like Wings. You could sort of see him as a visionary, really, in the kind of William Blake mould, except from Prestwich in Manchester, and with a different vibe than William Blake, mostly. So yes, that was good. Moved on to a Red Sonja novel. So Red Sonja is a sword and sorcery character who was created in comics, in Marvel Comics, in the Conan series, and then has a sort of life of her own in comics. Too much, I often say she's a great character who is overused. But in the 80s, there were a series of 6 paperback novels by David C. Smith and Richard L. Tierney that are pretty good, but I've only actually read the first couple. So reading number 4, Endithor's Daughter, based on a review that sort of made it sound as if there might be sort of a detection aspect going on, was great. It's a fun read. Sonia's a great character. The way she's depicted on the cover, Boris he's painted the chain, but he forgot the mail by the look of it, because she actually wears a chain mail tunic in the text. But yeah, she's kind of a nicer character in this book. She does things like getting together a little gang of street urchins to help her. So she's not quite as uncompromising as she can come across in the comic books. So the story is this Endithor was in the process of brewing up some black magic to assassinate a fellow aristocrat when he's arrested and executed. So his daughter is on the vengeance trail, and she takes up magic and is doing magical things. This aristocrat that Endithor tried to end, he's kind of manipulated by a vampire. So there's a vampire character who's sort of pulling the strings. So there's quite a convoluted set of things going on there. Red Sonja, just a wandering sellsword in Shadizar the Wicked in Zamora, a city invented by Rob E. Howard that's full of intrigue and it's a sort of where criminals would like to hang out, in the taverns and back streets, and that it's got that kind of setting. So she gets involved in that, and yes, there is detection. There's figuring out what's going on. Who is it that's killing people in the streets and draining their blood? And she even does proper detective things like tapping up an informant for information and stuff like that. So bizarrely, it is a sword and sorcery book that you could sort of call an occult detective book. 2 genres where the supernatural is often defeated by the heroes. Just throwing that in there. So then, actually with me, while we were away here, I read a Man from U.N.C.L.E. book, The Vampire Affair. So these were published. Man from U.N.C.L.E. was a spy series in the 1960s, basically TV movies. I think they did a couple of cinema films as well, or TV ones that were put onto the cinema. I only really thought about them because David McCallum, who played Ilya Kuryakin, one of the 2 heroes, died recently, so I acquired a bunch of the books. The numbering's different for some reason. In the States, The Vampire Affair has a better cover, and it's number 6. So here it's number 9. David McDaniel, talking of number 6, he wrote a prisoner book. That's probably the only other David McDaniel book I've read by him. Anyway, The Vampire Affair, one of the U.N.C.L.E. agents has been found. Holes in neck, drained of blood. What's going on? It's in Romania. So Napoleon Solo and Ilya Kuryakin are dispatched to find out what's happened, and part of the action is I don't know if you hear that sort of fusillade of cracking sounds. It's like the beams in this building keep doing that as the heat from this behemoth of fire. Anyway, yes. Vampires, are they real or not? what's going on, because it's a spy show. You wouldn't normally have supernatural stuff in it. I won't say the result, just say that I found the answer entirely satisfactory on all fronts. So David McDaniel, sadly passed away really young, was active in science fiction fandom, which is probably why a famous science fiction fan gets a cameo as well. Yeah, lots of fun stuff in this. It's 120 pages long, so they're a good read. And then to finish off, the greatest, or perhaps at least the most prolific team of occult detectives of all, Mystery Incorporated. I read the text novel of the first Scooby-Doo movie, which I've never seen, so coming at it via the adaptation. So it's a novelisation of a script by James Gunn, by Suzanne Weyn, who is, I think she's written lots of stuff for this sort of age group. It would be great if they'd given the job to somebody like Thomas Ligotti, but they didn't. And it's fine. I think a movie that came out in 2002, what I'm envisaging is a frenetic, slightly bad CGI, bubblegum coloured kind of thing. So I don't particularly think I'd enjoy the film. So reading it through this filter is really quite good. What did I think about it? Well, for a start, there are actual occult things in the Scooby-verse. Although it's often a man in a mask, they have faced actual supernatural threats, as they do here. So it definitely counts as proper occult detective goings on. What else? I thought... I'll avoid spoilers. The revelation of who the baddie is, I thought was really funny and great. And, it's got the sorts of things that have to be layered into movies to make a long-form piece work. There's kind of, especially in the 2000s, so it's kind of got a feminist element. There's sort of, the team have split up because none of them feel their contribution is valid, and they're sort of tricked into coming back together, and all of that resolves itself. I thought the brainwashing plot, which has elements of sort of Stepford Wives about it, was great. I'd written Universal Tour, yes. I went to Universal Studios in Florida once, and because we were there on a work thing, we were kind of out of the public area, meeting the head honchos, and some actors who were paid to be the Scooby Gang wandered by on a break looking miserable. I don't know why I thought I'd mention that. Except somebody in our party looked more like Velma than their actor Velma. So, I don't know why I mentioned that either, really. So that was the senses-shattering climax of Occult Detective October, which has been a great event. Maybe I'll do a wrap-up of the whole thing if I have any further thoughts. But it was really good. I really enjoyed discovering stuff across such a vast span of time, and also across lots of different genres. Hope you've enjoyed watching that. I think you can see a foot of Dr. Jenny, which is probably the more Dr. Jenny than you've actually seen visually in any of these films. And she has two, yes. With slipper socks.
Yes, my lord, she had two.
Okay, back soon.
I'm hilarious.
Back soon with something else.